name is Krista Sudhakar, and I work in Cummins Inc. We are based out of Columbus, Indiana. Cummins is a 102-year-old company, and we are primarily a diesel engine manufacturer. But we also manufacture power systems, that is generators and other power systems. We manufacture components like turbochargers, after treatment systems, filtration systems, and fuel systems and other things. Just in the last couple of years, we have also ventured into the new, power technologies like battery fuel cells and hydrogen-powered engines. So we are kind of like an organization which is basically into engine manufacturing and power system manufacturing. So we have about 60,000 plus employees, and we are our presence is there in about 67 countries. Our Fortune 500 ranking for 2020 is 132. So we are a pretty well-respected company, even in the U.S. I work as a finance system support manager, and I have teams, and most of my work, like 90% of my work, are project-based, and so I always work in a team environment, never as a individual who is doing something. So I have lots of experience in working in a team, and that's what we'll look at as we go through the various topics. So from the question that has been given by the one and the second one about the kind of teams I have worked for, teams in India, teams in America, multicultural teams, teams which were effective, teams which were a flop, and why. Role of a leader in these teams, good ones, not so good ones, and how do they add new members to the team? How do they let go ineffective team members? And how do we review the team performance, etc.? So this is right up my alley. So I can take these questions first. Okay. So what kind of teams have I worked for? Just to be too generic, I can say that I've worked in all kinds of team environments. The size, based on the size of the team, I can say I've worked in projects that are like really large. And the last project that I worked on for 7 years, 2014 till 2020, it was a very big project. It was a multi-million-dollar project spanning over multiple years, and we had. At one point of time, the project team size was 170. So it was a huge project of which I was a part of. So when this project ended, we were a little over 60 people. So we have large project teams. So that was the project that I had the most experience as a team leader, as a team member, and so on and so forth. Then I have worked in small projects also. So in Cummins, Six Sigma is a concept that is widely promoted. And Six Sigma project teams are usually smaller teams. Like, we have 4 or 5 people working in a Six Sigma project. So I've worked in large projects, and I have worked in small projects. Now, I also have worked in projects where people are local. So in a Six Sigma project, we usually are co-located, and we choose people who are co-located so that we can work with them, in a face-to-face environment, because that it makes a lot of sense to do that that way. Now I have worked and we've been part of projects where that other team members are in different buildings of the organization. Sometimes we go there, sometimes they are in other regions in the US. We have gone there. Sometimes we travel, sometimes we work remotely. So Co-location local is definitely a part of it, and working face-to-face with international teams when we travel. I have worked with international teams. I have worked remotely. This project for which we did for the past 7 years was about 90% remote work and about 30% face-to-face work. So it's I worked with regional project teams so for this project we had formed regional teams, and these regional / local teams were in China, Australia, UK, Belgium, France, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Mexico, Brazil, South Africa, Germany, and so on and so forth. So we created smaller teams so that we'll still have the advantages of a face-to-face project environment within the smaller teams, but the larger project team, on the other hand, we all worked remotely. The 30% of the time, which I mentioned, is when we travel to those locations. Then the other type of teams that I have been involved with are teams where all of them are employees. We have a mix of employees and contractors or third-party vendor teams. We have so on and so forth. So the reason I mentioned this is when you are in a meeting or a team with third-party vendors or contractors, the way you interact and behave and you react to things are much different from when you have an all-employee team. So these are some of the various scenarios that I could think of, or the various types of teams that I could think of that I have worked in. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions on this.
Yes, can you talk about a team which did very well, as against a team which did not do well, then we'll ask you why it is so both ways.
Okay. A team that was my next point anyway. So I'll take that. So as I said, I work in a project, in project-based work. So a few years ago, and not a few years ago, so maybe about 12 years ago, a project was kicked off with a lot of fanfare to implement a system for the distribution business of our company. And that failed, number one. After a while, the project was pulled off and the team was disbanded. Then they started the same project again. It went okay for a while, then it didn't go okay, so disbanded. They did that a third time. Then after a while, they said that this is not going to work for us till we find another solution. So finally, we had, they had a different. By this time, I had left that organization. So by the end of it all, the fourth time was successful, and they implemented a solution which had some key factors. I mean, we cannot really say that this is the reason why it failed, but everything that was done for the time when it was successful were things that were not done before. Okay, so things like the one main reason is that particular group had various processes, like each entity did its own thing. So consolidating all the processes and coming up with a standard process was very difficult. So they failed to find that common ground or the common process that they could use across all their businesses. So there's no clear understanding of the processes and hence the requirements. And
can you give an example of this process mismatch? Just give an example.
Sure, I can give you an example. So I am primarily involved in the order to cash process, and so invoicing, right? Invoicing, each entity invoiced in their own way, right? The way they created their orders, the way they the kind of data that they used to create the orders, the way they created the orders, the way they generated all the shipping documents and the invoicing documents and all that, each entity did it in a different way. So that is one example I can give you. The second example I can give you is that each entity had its own accounting chart of account structure. So we tried to implement a system which did not have a common process. So it was very difficult. Now, how do you accommodate chart of account structure A, B, C, and D in one system and map that to one chart of account structure that is used by everybody else in Cummins? The reason for these variations are, there is a lot of reasons for that. But so little things like this, which they could not fit the business process into the solution that they were trying to implement.
So because of that, you had conflicts between the team members. Can you tell some? In fact, we are more interested in that part of the story.
Right. I can't say there was conflict in the team members, but yeah, there was a lot of discontent within the team members because nobody had any clear idea of what we were trying to do in the end anyway. So now in terms of in terms of teams that are formed in my company, we are trained well in the dynamics of a team before we are put in a team situation. So yes, conflicts arise, but most of them would be interpersonal conflicts, and they are identified and dealt with quickly as they come. But in terms of other conflicts, no, because this is a project environment, we have not seen much of the other type of conflicts, because if there is a conflict with the project cost, time and schedule and all that, then project is evaluated and the project is disbanded if need be. So that happens too. So
can you tell, you said you people are well trained in this team processes and are well prepared. Can you tell how you are prepared? What kind of training you go through and kind of thing? Yeah.
Right. So after any project is kicked off, we have a kind of training session that is conducted by HR, which basically the objective of that exercise is to get people to know about the other team members, what they do, what they are going to do, things about them. Then we basically level set the expectations of the project, the expectations from the leaders, what are they expecting. Then there are team building exercises that are conducted, which gives us a comfort feeling working with the other team member, right? So it kind of builds that camaraderie and that that relationship with the other person that we can take into the team as we interact with the other members of the team. So immediately, for our project, we had that, and we did that on a periodic basis also. On a periodic basis, we had all-day sessions where a week-long all-day sessions where we just talk about the project, where we are, what we are doing good, and everybody is involved. That gives us a feeling of belonging to a project, belonging to that team, and it kind of like builds our allegiance to the team also. So the one that HR conducts is all very structured. The other team building exercises in the form of conferences and other things, which is in the early stages of the project, we used to meet quarterly. Then we became, twice a year, and then finally we ended that with once a year. So that exercise that was conducted periodically to help build that whole team. You see, as I said, we had like 170 people, so that was very helpful in that process.
This 170 people working for nearly 7 years, we are talking about a very, very, long-standing team. And I'm sure during that time, people left the team and people joined the team. How did you manage? And can you share some information on that? Yeah.
Right. So yes, people did leave the team. New people joined the team. People left the team because not because of the project or the work itself, but because they either had got other good opportunities, or they wanted to work from the location. Find a job closer to their location, and so on and so forth. So I don't think anybody left because they didn't like the project. And when somebody left like that, so when it was an employee who left, so we have a process in which we backfill roles. So first, that role is offered to internal employees, and if nobody suitable is found internally, then it is offered, to external applicants, and they can apply. There have been a couple of instances where even when we did not get anybody external, somebody within the team itself had been asked to pick up the additional responsibility. So that once happened with my team. We had a lady who was working on a module, fixed assets, and she left, and to fill that position, they brought in a new college hire who has never worked in a systems environment. So in order to provide her the support that is needed so that she can fulfill her role, we asked another of my team members to work alongside her. So that way we feel. Otherwise, it is quite unique that we had very little turnover in the last 7 years in this whole team.
So it's a very stable team.
It was because it was a fun project, and everybody enjoyed working in that project. So that was when somebody had to leave, and so adding team members to that, so let's say that we find the need for someone, we just follow the hiring process in Cummins.
Okay.
Now, letting go of someone because their performance is not up to the mark, Cummins has a procedure for that. We cannot just simply let go of a person. We give them an opportunity to improve their performance. So we have a performance improvement plan that we work with the employee. And it's for a specific period of time, and we give them that opportunity to improve their performance. And we work with HR. We work alongside HR in that process. So there are predefined guidelines as to where and how we are expecting the improvement and how to measure that improvement. So we put them through that process, and there is a review, periodic review in that process. And the expectation is that we will see improvement through that process. Now, if at the end of the process, they show improvement and they are then able to take on the role that they are playing, well and good, they fit back right in. If not, they have been offered I have had one employee who had to go through this performance improvement plan, but even though she came up with, she finished that performance improvement plan successfully, she did show improvement, but she did not show improvement that was that would be useful in that role, an improvement that was required for her to perform that role. So we offered her a lower role, and she took it. She took it, and she performed a lower role. So we adjusted her roles and responsibilities in such a way that she would then be able to perform a lower role. And then the part of her role that fell off because of her going to a lower role was distributed among the other team members. So that is how we have managed. Worst comes to worst, they are let go. But from other parts of the organization, I have heard of instances, but nobody from our project has been. Now, this is performance-based. Then there is another example that I would like to give you, is that there was one girl, one college hire that came into my group, and within one month of her learning and finding out what her role would be, she told us that she was not a good fit for that. Because she was not interested in that as a career. Was somehow through the entire interview process and everything, there was a slight gap in her understanding of what she would be doing. But when she came and found out that she was going to do systems-based work and not actual finance analysis, she was not interested. But Cummins has a policy of a commitment of 2 years to a particular role. So for 2 years, she stayed on in the role, and but she was a very, her work ethic was very good. So she did very well. She learned the module, she learned the system, but she was very clear that that was not her chosen career path. So at the end of 1.5 years, we helped her get another role, but at the end of 2 years, she moved out of my group and went to another. She went to another business unit altogether. So that also happened. So it's on a one-on-one basis. Each individual, how we have resolved that has been different. So, but not much. On the other hand, the turnover in the contracting company, the third-party vendor, that was very, very high. But we had no responsibility towards their training or their anything. Like, we expect whoever backfills them to be, to hit the road running. They should have been trained and, proper handover done. And so that part, it was handled entirely outside of, what we do. We don't have any processes for that.
Okay. And before I hand it over, can you talk a little bit about the team members or team leaders from various other cultures? You are talking about so many countries, and I know you have traveled all over those places. Can you tell about this, the subtle differences or not so subtle differences as being a team member or a team leader?
So as you know, the very reason regional teams were formed were because to address these cultural differences. Now, I'll take the example of China. The biggest issue that we had with China or the biggest challenge that we had with China was language, right? They don't understand our English, so we always had to have a translator in the middle who translates. So the way they had done the China regional team was that they picked someone who was very proficient in English to be the point person for us to interact with. And then they in turn then worked with the regional teams. Now, let's say we are in a meeting and, I'm talking, and they will always stop me. And then there will be one person who will translate this to the rest of the team in Chinese, and then, have some discussion. So it's a lengthy process. It's a time-consuming process, talking to them and, understanding what their requirements are. But we managed in the end. And, then we go there. When we meet them, it kind of changes the dynamics. I mean, when all is said and done, we can be very efficient working, in remote teams and all that. But seeing them face to face definitely makes, a difference. So when we meet them, and then, then we understand how they are reacting and why they are reacting and what's going on. I mean, language was the biggest barrier with China, and other cultural things about the way they work itself is very different, right? So they are very collaborative. So like 20 people work on the same thing. So, and for us, like, coming from the US, it feels like, oh my gosh, 20 people are working on the same thing. But no, culturally, that is how they work. So we have to be adaptive to such a working process, I would say. So that is China. We had similar language issues in France also. But the issue there, the challenges there were entirely different because the way Europeans work is very different, right? So they are very kind of like really laid back, and you feel like, nobody's doing anything. So we've got to coax them and, get them to do things. It was very different, even though, like, the bottom line, the basic difference is the language. We are not able to communicate properly in their language. Again, we had translators and so on and so forth that we used in order to address those.
But for this language issue, they behave like any comments person. Is that right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct, because right from the vision, missions, and values of the organization, and all the tools and techniques that are available for us to be, successful in our business, it's all standardized. So if I'm undergoing a training in team building, they are undergoing exactly the same training in team building. So in terms of how we work, in terms of our value systems within the organization, in terms of all those things, we are the same. We react, we respond identically, because we are given the same kind of exposure to, everything. So, but the difference comes in only in the cultural matters.
Culture, besides language, what other, maybe one aspect you can tell, then you can go to, other questions here.
Sure. Culture. Let me think of a good example for culture. Okay, I'll go back to China only. Okay, so here, so it's in my area again. Order to cash. One of the key things that comes out, an output of that process, is the customer statement. Okay, so a customer has bought from us, and we have at the end of the month, we send them a statement saying, okay, you have purchased so much for us, you have paid us so much, and this is your balance. So at the end of the month, we send them that. Now, this is a global standard process for everybody. Everybody in the organization thinks that, the customer statement is a key thing, one of the key things. So when we went to China, we told them, yes, we have a customer statement, we can use that, and so on and so forth. So we implement this for China, and the first lot of customer statements goes out, and all the people, the customers called the sales reps, and it was not a good conversation with the sales reps. So apparently, in the Chinese culture, statements and letters saying that this is due for payment and reminders that you need to make a payment, etc., are not taken very lightly. So what did we do to address that? I mean, so we did not know about that. So what we thought was like, we are giving you a global solution package, and all of Cummins uniformly have the same statement being sent out to customers. For us, it was, a big deal, but for them, they were not able to use that because of the cultural difference there, where a customer does not like to be reminded of what is due to them. Customer does not like to be told that this is what your due is. So they said that, no, Krista, we cannot send statement. Customer does not like it. Our sales team does not like it. So we have to find a different way to do this. And they said that we should do this on a need basis. If a customer asks for it, we will provide that. So finally, what we did was we changed the email addresses to somebody in Cummins, and we left it there so that no statement. I cannot change the process that has been implemented. So I work around, change the email address to somebody in Cummins. So a dummy address, basically, so that those statements will get I cannot stop my, IT pro